Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. I am completely amazed by this turnout. As Lauren mentioned, we started this a couple of years ago with this little idea to have some women get together and have a lunch, and look at us, sold out event, which is truly amazing. But as my friend Deb said this morning, obviously, this is a very good year to pay attention. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. Thank you, Lauren, the Committee of 70, and everyone that was able to join us here today for this very special event. As Kevin said, I'm Laura LaRosa. I'm a longtime Committee of 70 supporter, and I'm a longtime board member. In my capacity as an individual presenting sponsor, I have the honor of introducing the panel. And this is a panel of truly inspiring women. They are leading our city and our state at all levels. However, I would be remiss if I didn't extend a heartfelt congratulations to my fellow Committee of 70 meeting board member, Leslie Ann Miller. As has been repeated here throughout the morning, Leslie's legacy of service and leadership has made our city and our state stronger and had a lasting impact on all of us. So thank you. In everything that she's taken on, from serving as the first woman general counsel to the Commonwealth, to her support of the arts, she has done it with conviction and care. And I feel very fortunate to know her personally. We're all very fortunate to benefit from her leadership over the years. So now I am happy to welcome the women that will be sharing their own journey to becoming a civic leader in today's panel discussion. So moderating today's discussion is Marty Moscowane. She is the host and executive producer of WHYY's The Connection, which is a weekly show featuring wide-ranging conversations about what makes us human. And Marty was also previously the host and producer of Radio Times. I think that many people know her from there. Marty will be moderating a discussion between several notable women, focusing on the challenges and opportunities that women face when leading in the nonprofit and public sectors. While I'm confident that they'll share more in a moment, I'm going to provide brief introductions to each of them, and I'm going to do it in alphabetical order before we get started. So first, Reverend Bonnie Camarda. She is the Director of Partnerships for the Salvation Army of Eastern Pennsylvania and Delaware. She has forged strong ties with businesses and government leaders, potential benefactors, and fellow social service organizations throughout the region. She's a relentless advocate for the marginalized. Reverend Camarda's aspiration is not merely to uplift neighborhoods, but to harness their spiritual wealth, societal goodwill, and civic principles. Mayor Paige Gephardt-Cognetti is the mayor of Scranton. She has been an advocate for good government and transparency throughout her career, and Mayor Cognetti served in the Obama-Biden administration from 2009 till 2012 as a senior advisor to the Undersecretary of International Affairs of the U.S. Treasury Department. Cognetti served previously as a director of the Scranton School Board and has advised the Pennsylvania Auditor General. Leslie Richards is the CEO and 11th General Manager of SEPTA. Under her leadership, SEPTA moved swiftly to protect the health and safety of its employees and riders during the COVID-19 pandemic, while providing essential services to those who needed it most. And prior to joining SEPTA, Richards served as the first woman secretary of PennDOT. Richards saw a staunch advocate for women and diversity in transportation and government. Council member Catherine Gilmore Richardson served the city of Philadelphia as a council member at large. She is the youngest person ever and the first at-large member of Philadelphia City Council to become majority leader. And in 2019, she shattered glass ceilings when she became the youngest woman in Philadelphia to be elected citywide and the youngest Black woman ever elected to Philadelphia City Council. And finally, Jennifer Selber is the general counsel to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Selber serves as a close advisor to Governor Shapiro and his senior leadership team. Prior to this appointment, Selber served as Executive Deputy Attorney General of Pennsylvania in charge of the criminal division, where she supervised over 500 employees and all criminal investigations and prosecutions under Attorney General Josh Shapiro. So as you can see or hear, these panelists each bring a wealth of experience, insights, and expertise to this discussion, and we're incredibly lucky to be hearing from them today. So I'm going to leave you with this last thing that I read last night that I thought was very interesting. Be the kind of woman that when your feet hit the ground in the morning, the devil says, "Oh no." Enjoy our help.
Well, thank you so much for coming out this morning, this rainy morning, and I'm really looking forward to talking with these 5 extraordinary women about their career paths. We'll be talking about their ideas about women and leadership, some of the challenges that they have faced, their advice about how to manage this thing called work-life balance that I know we all struggle with, especially in these tough times. So let's get to it. We have a couple of firsts here on the stage, and to you, Mayor Page, you're the first woman to be mayor of Scranton, Pennsylvania. What was the sort of major challenge you had as a woman to get this job?
Yeah. So I am the mayor of Scranton. I've been there since January 2020. I won a special election in November of 2019. It was a 6-way race. We had hit a kind of a rock bottom moment in Scranton with some bad government, the opposite of what the Committee of 70 proposes. And David, I see in the audience, came up to Scranton during my transition to help us with our ethics policy and to get things back on track in Scranton. So being a woman in the race, 2 other women had run before and had not been able to break that ceiling. So I had them to thank, in addition to just that moment where people were looking for stability. They were looking for a new path. And I'm not originally from Scranton. I'm actually from Oregon. I think that idea that somebody could come in from the outside and help clean things up a little bit really resonated. I was 6 months pregnant when I decided to run, and that was an added element.
You kind of buried the lead there, I have to say. But
I gotta say that having had a second baby girl in August, it is already, I'm seeing that it's shifted. I didn't get as much flack for having the baby at the office when she was a newborn. We're starting to see that shift already. And so I look forward to the second and the third and the fourth woman, Mayor of Scranton.
And you're a member of Philadelphia City Council, the youngest, which is a kind of a first as well. Did you see barriers as the youngest member of City Council?
Well, first, thank you to the Committee of 70 for hosting this awesome discussion for women in public leadership and in leadership in general. And I must acknowledge the presence of my colleagues who are here, Councilmember Rue Landau, who also serves at large, and Councilmember Kendra Brooks, who is our minority leader. But obviously, I now am not the youngest member of council.
Time goes on.
Time very quickly, particularly when you're serving during a pandemic. But I will say that it was very difficult initially to run. I think everyone imagined that it would be easy for me because I had worked in government for so long. I started as an intern and a volunteer for former Councilmember Blondell Reynolds Brown when I was 15 years old. And so this year is actually my 25th year in or around Philadelphia City Council and City Hall. When I decided to run for office in 2019, the councilwoman had just decided not to seek re-election. And it was a very fast turnaround. It was only 14 weeks until Election Day. And everyone said, she's so nice. We really like her. We've enjoyed working with her. She's great. But she has small children. At the time, my son was 2 years old and my daughter was 4. And my bonus daughter, who is my daughter, was 13. And everyone said, well, she's really nice. We enjoy working with her, but she won't be able to raise the money. And, I think she smiles too much. And so, and that's just naturally who I am. And there were a lot of obstacles and barriers, obviously, because of my age and because I had small children and I was really early in my marriage. But now I am the majority leader of Philadelphia City Council. And I have the awesome privilege to serve my colleagues in ensuring that they are becoming acclimated to city council, and that we're working through the issues and the variety of challenges that we are facing here in the city of Philadelphia, and working with our administration to move Philadelphia forward. So it was very challenging, but each and every day I woke up and I gave it all that I had every day. Every day I went to sleep, I rest assured knowing that I gave that day everything.
To you, Leslie, running SEPTA and your career as you look at it now. Yeah. What have been some of the barriers that you have overcome? How?
And everyone in this room, I'm sure we can all talk about it. But just quickly, because it hasn't been mentioned. So my background in environmental science, environmental planning. I first worked for the EPA doing air quality and water quality issues, which got me into transportation. On the air quality side, I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. I did not talk about that for a really long time, and I was just reminded that I haven't been talking about it a lot, so I'm starting to talk about it again. While I was a stay-at-home mom, got very involved in my community, did our township day around the pony rides and the prize booth, and joined our park and rec board and then our planning commission, and then to my surprise was asked to run for local office township supervisor. At the same time went back to work part-time, and so everything started to come together, and I did not realize all the important decisions that impacted my family's quality of life, my neighborhood, our communities that we choose to raise our children in and spend a lot of time in. And so kind of fell in love with public service there. Then had the opportunity, thanks to many people in this room, by the way, who heard what I was about and believed in me in the beginning. It's so nice to see some of them again. Ran for county commissioner, and then met a gentleman by the name of Tom Wolf. And when he was filling out his cabinet, knew of my transportation background, my civil engineering and environmental engineering firm experience, and got to serve in his cabinet as the first female. And talking about obstacles, being the first female PennDOT secretary, an agency with 11,500 employees, 82% of which are men. And I still remember walking onto that floor, 8th floor, the executive suite, and there was not one woman on that floor except for administrative assistants. And that changed right away. And so, just explaining everything, but having this wonderful network. And if it were not for political connections while I was township supervisor, I was amazed when I was, the chair of my township supervisor board, that all of a sudden real estate agents, business people, developers wanted to meet with me, right? And I was thrilled to meet with them because they wanted to make my neighborhood better. And so just those connections, carrying that on, getting to know people. I'm a big proponent of, if you don't like someone so much, get to know them better. Because as you get to know people better, you figure out ways that you can work with them on topics that are really important to you. And that's what I've done. And of course, I could talk to you for hours about the challenges of SEPTA. I just want to thank everyone who rides SEPTA. Thank you. They can ride SEPTA.
Yes.
And I'll just close with this. One woman who I was reunited with today, who I had not seen since I ran for county commissioner. And she's like, I've always been a fan of you. I always wanted to support. I'm so proud of all you've done. And I'm even going to let you change my bus network. That is the type of back and forth, right, that I love to hear. So thank you.
Big and small victory.
Exactly.
Right. But for you, Jen, and we have a lot to talk about, but
yeah.
I want to make sure our audience knows some of the barriers that you feel like you've overcome.
Yeah, I would say, I started my career in the Philadelphia DA's office and kind of rose through the ranks as you do into the homicide unit. And I was eventually named chief of the homicide unit. And I ended up being chief of mostly men and people that were many years older than I and more experienced than I. And there was, I think, a lot of skepticism about that. So it was a very challenging first big leadership position where I had to really learn to listen and take advice and bring people into the fold and lead in a different way maybe than I would have with a different group of people. And it was a really nice, stretch. I was in rooms with law enforcement, I imagine very similar to what Leslie had, where I was the only woman in the room. There were no women. And I was well received, I will say. It was just a matter of women not really being in that field. And I would just say, and this is true for young men now too, you need a lot of support. And I just would really encourage everybody. My mom is here in the audience. You can't do it alone. And at least in our generation, women were working and also doing probably 80% everything else. So it's just an enormous amount of work that women are doing. And you really need to build up that village or that network so that you can succeed in all the areas of your life.
Great. And to you, Reverend Bonnie, the barriers you feel like you have overcome, and then we'll dig down a little bit deeper.
I think my biggest barrier has been the language. I will say I came to this country as a university student, and my barrier has been the language where people think because I'm Hispanic or I have another language, I'm not educated enough or I don't know enough. And then my next barrier, and I will say was language, my second barrier is men. Because I applaud my husband, by the way, and some of the men in that room. But my first career was as a pastor of a church. And for years, I drove with men in cars, but men wouldn't let me drive in the front seat. I only could go with them. Even I was pastor, as same as they were, with the same credentials, I will have to sit in the back of the car.
Wow.
Then when you think about challenge for women, I think some of our challenges, men who are here, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the women in your life and in your work. But that is a challenge because we always being second. We're the one who take care of the home. We're the one who take care of the children. We're the one, it's like we don't have a brain. Hey guys, we have brains and our brains have shown that for you, that's probably one of my, my biggest challenge. And I tell people my language, my accent is very thick. Just listen careful.
I hear several themes here. Well, let me ask you, and I'll start with you, Mayor Page. How would you then describe what is your leadership style? What would the people who work directly with you, how would they describe how you lead?
Well, I've noticed that people, when you're mayor, they always want to compare you to the previous mayor. Right? They're always trying to think, well, were you this guy or that guy or this guy, or she's a combination of. I'm like no other mayor, right? I'm me, and I'm a product of my experiences and my goals and what we want to see the city become. And I certainly appreciate the mayors before me that I learned from, but it's taken time. We've been in for 4.5 years now. It's taken time for people to get used to, oh, she's not someone else, she's actually her. And my style is much more about convening, collaborating. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I'm never the smartest person in the room. You put people around you that are going to give you great advice and be thinking forward and thinking about all the things that you couldn't possibly, think through every angle. So I'm a much more relaxed style. I'm not sure if that's gender-based or not, but I have come into situations in different departments where I think somebody was anticipating that they would come in and I would yell at them, right? I would raise my voice. I don't raise my voice. It's just not my style. And so I think we've gotten through these first 4.5 years, like, okay, she's a little bit different. And some of my staff, I think, would say, well, they tell each other, like, oh, no, you know she's angry when she seems disappointed versus yelling. Like, she's not going to yell at you, but, I'll express it in a little bit different way and try to be more about coaching, right? About coaching and thinking, this is how I would like to see things done. This is, I think, best for the city. Let's work through this together, as opposed to this kind of, let's just yell at each other until something changes, which I don't think works very well.
How about for you, Jen? How do you think people would describe your leadership style, and how do you see it?
I would say definitely I'm collaborative in my role right now. Not only am I not the smartest person in the room, every issue that I deal with, there are at least 10 people that know more about it than I do. There's 600 lawyers in the Commonwealth. They're in their different agencies, and they're all experts in their field. And so although I am supervising them, I am listening to them and asking them questions, bringing them into the process, and then ultimately making decisions with their help. And it's my belief that a good leader leads by example, but very importantly, treats all of their employees with respect, values them, and listens to them. And, I've gone around to all the agencies and talked, and I've said to all of the lawyers, I don't care if you've only been here for 6 months. If you're seeing something, let's hear it. It will come up to me, and we'll talk about it in our meetings. It really matters what's going on the ground. And I just think that's an empowerment message that I like to give all employees.
Yeah, I'm thinking of your job in city council. Yeah, in terms of leadership and how people see you and how you manage your office, your colleagues, but you've also got the whole city.
Sure. I'll say servant leadership for me. There's no position in Philadelphia City Council that I have not been able to serve except communication.
Sure.
But I've done every single staff of council. And so for me, it's servant leadership, leading by example, and treating my team and everyone that I interact with the way that I would want to be treated. And so my team, I look at my team as a family. And not only do we talk about all of the work things that are happening, but we talk about life and their goals and how I can be supportive of their leadership and empowering them to move into positions of leadership and responsibility.
I was doing a little homework for today's interview, and I ran across this phrase, authentic leadership, which included how much self-awareness does someone have, their emotional intelligence, their resilience and collaboration. And I'm hearing that theme. You want to speak to that?
No, absolutely. For me, the biggest compliment is when someone says, "Oh, Leslie, she cares," right? And I think every day I want to show how I care about our riders, about our employees, about the neighborhoods, that we serve. I started this job January of 2020, and the world looked a lot different, and this job looked a lot different. And I like it. All of a sudden, right, COVID, I'm asking people not to ride our system,
Right.
and getting to know my senior team. And I had a fairly homogeneous senior team who was used to doing things a certain way. We were getting to know each other. I'm very straightforward. I don't want surprises. I want to know bad news immediately. Doesn't get any better with time. And I still remember it was early April, and I'm asking the team, how can we reduce service? How can, we make sure that our employees aren't exposed unnecessarily to anything that, that we don't know that they, and one of the senior team, it was like he was chosen to talk to me because the others were scared too. And he said, "We don't know what you want from us." And I said, "You have worked here for over 30 years. You know better than I do. What is our essential service? What do you need?" And it was a shock to them because they had been used to a leader who told them what to do, not who asked them what to do. And then there are many people in this room. I'm looking at Kevin because he's one of the ones. What I decided to do, because I realized my team, I needed help. And it was overwhelming. I said, I'm going to make 2 calls a day. I'm going to reach out to my network. I'm going to reach out to people I know. I know that I had health issues. I knew that I had vulnerable population challenges and everything. Kevin was one of my calls. Others were as well. So I had housing specialists, mental health specialists. I had specialists who had run transit systems, my engineering friends. And every day I just gathered more information. I shared it with our team. And then together we worked on these problems. And then started, again, collaboration, working together. Cannot do it alone. And I need help. And I'm the first one to ask for help.
Great. How about for you?
My style is a servant. I will say that I feel like if you serve people in whatever capacity or wherever they are at, you meet them at their lowest point or the highest point, you always have a leadership role. I have, I sing as a collaborative. I share a few words, and I feel like it's very collaborative. It's not a one person running the show. It's all together, come up with the themes, with the service. But at the end of the day, what you remember about someone is how have they make you feel? Have they listened to you? Have they served you? Know that you are the president, know that you are the CEO, know that you are the city. What she will remember on me over the years when we've been working together is how I have served her, how I have prayed for her. She won't remember anything else. And my advice to all of you who are sitting here is how do you serve the people in your team? How do you serve your neighbors? How do you serve the people that you know? Because at the end of the day, people will know you by your service. And because that service will demonstrate love, right? And if you love people, they will love you back. I'm looking at Ru there. She and I have had a lot of different, we're very different people. We are different leadership style. We come from different backgrounds, from different walk of life. But at the end of the day is how I make her feel that she trusts me enough to call me when she has a challenge.
Yeah. Let's talk about mentors and role models. And Jen, I'll start with you. Did you have someone that you thought, I want to be like her?
I had a lot of different mentors. After I graduated from law school, I clerked for the Honorable Anita Brody, who at the time was one of the few women on the Eastern District. And she was really a force of nature. And she gave me the best professional advice that has helped me through my whole career, which was, she said, Jennifer, you're fast at doing things. And apologies to Eric Kreitler in the audience. She said, don't work for a big law firm that's going to value you by the number of hours that you work. Go somewhere where you will be valued by what you produce and what you can accomplish. And wow, what clear thinking. Yeah. Particularly for women who have to manage so much, to be penned in so that you're only valued by the number of minutes in a day that you're billing as an attorney makes no sense. And it was her clarity of many, many years. She was already in her late 70s that really led the way for me. So she was an important mentor. I was also mentored in the DA's office by men who were excellent, excellent mentors who really promoted women who absolutely, when I was promoted to the homicide unit, I was 6 months pregnant.
Wow.
And it was a man that promoted me.
How about the best piece of advice you got, Paige?
Best piece of advice. My mentor is one of my many mentors, but the director of the NEC at the White House is a woman by the name of Lael Brainerd. She was the vice chair of the Federal Reserve. And at the U.S. Treasury Department, I had the privilege of being her senior advisor for a few years. And we did a lot of time in random airports across the world, just waiting for different flights to different financial capitals to try to save the global economy. And it's a small mandate. So, with her, I learned how it looked to have a lot on your shoulders and be, at the very top of your field as one of the few women in finance and economics in that field, especially at that time, and also be a mother of 3 daughters. So it wasn't one piece of advice as much as learning and seeing her model that ability to integrate that work in life, but always put her kids first, no matter what. Kids first, no matter what. So no matter what was burning in the world, she would take that call. No matter what, the stakes were, she was thinking about her kids and how we were going to get home. How was she going to do her job so well every single day and give it everything, but also make sure that she made it through the soccer match. And I that model was so important, and it sticks with me to this very day. And I get the opportunity to see her pretty frequently now and thank her in person, which is very nice.
Oh, that's great. How about for you?
So for me, obviously, my mentor is Blondell Reynolds Brown, who was a member of Philadelphia City Council at large for 20 years. And for 16 of those years, the only woman serving the city at large. And I was fortunate enough to have a front row seat to her life since the age of 15 and watch her raise her daughter and prioritize her daughter and take her on the floor of the Democratic National Convention with pigtails. And I remember times in the morning when I would call her to check in, and you think everything is urgent when you're a staffer and you want to be on point and do everything well. And she would say, please allow me to call you back. I'm in the car with my daughter. And after she dropped off her daughter at school, then we would talk and finalize the details for the day. But I had the awesome opportunity to watch her each and every day. And she told us all the time, excellence must be your habit. It is something you must do each and every day. Show up prepared, ensure you are ready for the challenges that the day will most certainly bring. And she would always tell us, and her mother said this as well, the circle always loops. Be good to people because they remember how you treat them.
Wow.
Yeah, this is funny that I'd say, because when I say challenges could be men, my mentor, my first mentor was man. It was the Honorable Nelson Diaz, who was the first Hispanic judge in the city of Philadelphia. Nelson is my brother from another mother. Literally. Then he will say to me, I pastored him, I was in the church that he was belonged with his family, and he will say to me, what are you doing inside the church? The church needs to be outside. You cannot be in the pews. You need to be out there. And he's the one who really, today, who I am, in all the things in government, I learned from him. Literally, he got me out of my comfort zone. He got me out of being inside the church and say, you know, the church role is outside in the city. You don't have a role inside, you have a role outside. That has been, still today, we talk to each, I'm the godmother for 2 of his children. You know, we have had a 40 years relationship. But it was one man who decided, let me give this woman, and you know, and he would take me to everything, and he would invite me to anything he did, and taught me. Then that was my mentor. But the most important part for me about mentoring is not what I learned. I learned a lot from him, and this is going to sound very interesting to you. I live in Center City in the 80s, and you know, I was Hispanic, and I never knew that Philadelphia had an Hispanic community. Then was Nelson, he got me out of that congregation, drove me, and said, oh, you need to go to Hunting Park. And he said, maybe we're going to have something in Fifth and Indiana. And I'm like, I went down Broad Street, I remember this, and tried to make a right in Indiana, but you cannot make a right, it's a dead end. If you know the community, then it was that knowledge of my community that was in this city that I didn't even know existed, because I was pastoring a bilingual church, mostly English, that really made me think of the need and the list of this. He not only changed my trajectory as a pastor inside a church, he changed my trajectory about how did I go and work and help the least of this.
Oh, it's great. And how about for you, Liz?
Yeah, 2 things. And I learned from so many people, and so many people have helped me. But one was when I was a county commissioner, and I was serving with Governor Shapiro and also with Bruce Castor, 2 strong personalities. No media, and so for me, you know, what did I know? I knew how to get a transportation project done. I knew how to, get a budget settled on big projects. And it was a reporter who actually took me aside after an interview, and there was a jailbreak in Montgomery County, and both men, you know, big on police reform and law enforcement. And they got to me, you know, anything, Commissioner Richards, that you would like to say. And really, everything had been said. And so I says, no, you know, Josh and Bruce, you know, said everything. And he pulled me aside and he said, don't ever give up the opportunity to say something. People want to hear it from your voice. Yeah. They want to hear it from you as a mother, as a sister, as someone who, you know, sees things differently. And from then on, I felt like I could be myself. And just because I wasn't someone who had a lot of law enforcement in my family, I could still comment on this. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't give another piece of wonderful advice. I was arguing with someone in front of the Capitol in Harrisburg, and I was going at it with my data and my facts that I had read this report, and obviously the elected official I had not, you know, was just saying things that were lies and was not using the data behind them. And a friend of mine who happened to be the chair of the House Transportation Committee pulls me aside and says, take a breath, Leslie. And one thing you need to learn about Harrisburg is that logic and rational thinking have nothing to do what goes on here. And that was probably one of the best pieces of advice that I got. And I use it all the time because all of a sudden I realized that's not how I'm going to get this bill passed. Even though this bill is going to save lives, I am not going to get this bill passed because someone else believes it's going to save lives. I'm going to get this bill passed because what's important to this elected official is social services. And I'm going to go then talk to the Secretary of Health and see what's on her plate and how she's going to satisfy that. How can I work with this community? It's all these chess moves. It's not this direct, logical, rational way of thinking. And I became much more successful after that piece of advice.
Well, Jen, you have experience in this world, yes?
Yeah, I've gotten it for sure. And it has been a very steep learning curve because I really wasn't exposed to politics or the political world. And even though as general counsel, I am not engaged in politics in any way, shape, or form, it's the backdrop for everything. And to get that sensitivity to what's going on and how it's impacting all of the players that I interface with, I agree, very much like a chessboard where you're looking from on high and you're seeing how these things are lining up. And there really is a huge element of strategy and also I think something that we're all good with, which is really reading people. There is just, it's much more of an art than a science.
To be able to read people. Something you said, Leslie, when you got this job at SEPTA, I think it was an interview with the Inquirer, which is that you're in the people business. It wasn't necessarily, yes, there are buses and trains and all of that, but it's people business. And to you, Mayor Page, I mean, how significant is having those people skills?
Yeah, I mean, I have 80,000 bosses. I might be at the top of the food chain of our 520 employees, but we answer to 80,000 residents in the city. And you've got to listen and have that true empathy. You talk about authenticity. I think in public service, if you're there for yourself or for some other reason, you know, people are going to see through that. And you've got to be that mom and that sister and that daughter and that resident and that SEPTA rider, that bus rider, that pedestrian. And you've got to make sure you're putting yourself in other people's shoes every single day. So, you know, being mayor is fantastic because you cannot survive without being empathetic, without listening, without being in the public and being out in the neighborhoods. And it's extremely fulfilling in that way.
Yeah. I just got the sign that we have to end our discussion, and I'm very sorry because there is
one very quickly. I will say when you encounter people, they say we're not in politics. We all in politics. It's politics in your household. I explain this to my Spanish friends all the time. It's between mother and father. Mother, if you say no as a mother, will your son or your daughter go to your other half and ask the same question and get a yes? And I have to say, politics is everywhere. It's not only in the realm of government, but it's in your household.
On that note, my thanks to our 5 extraordinary panelists. All right. Thank you so much. Let's have another round of applause for that fantastic panel from Marty's help. We should have made this a day-long conference. I could listen to that all day.